And there was some confusion from you, Mayor, also from Blake Fontenay in the paper. So I wanted to take a minute, and even though we're going to be talking about Brightline later, while I'm still fresh, go into why I say Brightline should pay half and that was and should be the deal going forward. If I start sort of using Blake Fontenay's article, Opinion Stewart's Riffs Over Brightline and Growth Will Heal Only If People See the Truth. One of the things that was brought up is Blake said Collins seemed to be referring to the 2018 settlement agreement that settled a lawsuit between Brightline and Martin County. The city of Stewart wasn't a party to that agreement, but even if it was, Collins is making an incorrect assumption about what the settlement agreement actually says in reference to me saying that Brightline should pay for half of that station. So I brought with me tonight those various agreements so we could timeline through this without any confusion, because there appears to be a lot. So for transparency's sake, you'll have to take my word on it, but I'm reading from right now the 2018 settlement agreement. On page 8 of that agreement, section 6, Brightline Station in the Treasure Coast, that settlement agreement says that within 5 years, Brightline agrees to build at least one train station on the Treasure Coast. Following completion of that station, at least 2 northbound and 2 southbound Brightline trains will stop at the station each day, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily know that the agreement that we were about to enter into only has 2 stops for residents. So if you're planning on getting on an evening train after hanging out in Miami, you're going to be in a hotel. So for me, we'll talk about this later when we get into these discussions, but that would be one of those things I want to see updated in a future agreement. But construction of the station, this is Brightline saying, construction of the station is subject to the payment of 50% of the station construction cost by the county and or municipality in which the station is located, if such payment is requested by Brightline. So right off the bat, Brightline agrees to build this station, right? As long as the county or municipality that it's in agrees to paying half. Presumably, Brightline's paying the other half. And if there's confusion there, we'll move down to the next segment. In the event the applicable county or municipality or Brightline elects to seek federal, state, or other grant money to defray the cost of construction of such station, under this paragraph, the other party shall coordinate in good faith with such efforts. Likewise, if a party is successful in obtaining grant money for any construction, the cost of which is to be shared on an equal basis, their payment obligation shall be reduced on an equal basis. So again, Brightline and Martin County are the 2 parties in this agreement, and they're saying, hey, if one of us gets grant money, because we're splitting the cost of this station, we'll also split the grant money. Again, Brightline saying they're going to pay half. So this particular agreement, just so we're on the timeline, is November 25th of 2018. So let's zoom ahead here to December 12th of 2023. And I am looking at the interlocal agreement regarding the joint proposal to Brightline Trains, LLC. So this is between the city of Stewart, right, and Martin County with regard to Brightline. Again, within the whereas clause on the first page, it references that previous agreement. So we're still continuing with the same theme of paying half. Whereas on November 25th, 2018, the county entered into a settlement agreement with Brightline, wherein the county was subject to the potential payment of 50% of the construction costs, okay? And on the next page, and I know that this was a contentious point, is there were some who said, and I'll use the phrasing, as soon as the city got involved, that 2018 settlement agreement was out the window. Well, this agreement is between the city. This is involving the city. And within this agreement, Section B, subsection 6, the county and city agree to cooperate in applying for federal, state, or other grants to offset the cost of the project. If the city and or county are successful in obtaining grant funds for the project, the funds will be distributed as follows. As to the train station, the cost of which as to the train station, the cost of which is to be shared between the county and Brightline on an equal basis. So within the city's own agreement with the county, there's an understanding that the station's cost will be shared between Brightline and the county. Let's fast forward to December 20th of the same year. So we went from December 12th to the 20th. And what I'm looking at is our RFP response. This is what the Treasure Coast Regional Planning put together to send to Brightline to say, please pick us. And in this RFP response, there's a little graph, right? So we have submitted this with the county to Brightline saying, pick us. And there's a little chart in here that makes this painfully obvious, even for me, a mere chiropractor trying to understand all of this, right? Who pays for what? And it says train station and track work. Brightline, county, city. We got 3 little columns here, and I encourage you to go back and look at this. Train station and track work. Up to 50% Brightline. Brightline is going to pay up to 50% of the train station and track work. The county, up to 50%. City, NA, not applicable, because we're not on the hook for that. That's an agreement between those guys that has been consistent over 5 years. We have matriculated through this, and this is still the deal. Parking garage, streets, the parking that's necessary for this, the city is on the hook for that, 100% of it. The cost estimates in here are based on BOCA, so not really relevant to get into because nobody knows what it's going to cost. So those different estimates of could be 15 million, could be, you know. So what happened? How did we go from the county and Brightline splitting the cost of the station and the city being on the hook for the parking to a radically different deal that, in my opinion, and we may not all agree in this room tonight, but that needed to be rescinded and relooked at? Not completely canceled and removed forever, but renegotiated so that it's a good deal. Fast forward to March 4th, 2024. So we go from December 20th to March 4th. Brightline sends a letter to us and says, congratulations, you. City, county, congratulations. And in that letter from Brightline, they said, we pick you and your proposal, but we'd like to change some things in the final deal. So for 5 years, we've been going a certain direction. We've had a deal. And at the 11th hour, we'd like you to tweak a few things that, in my opinion, it's a fundamentally different deal. So within the bullet points of things that they wanted to change, I'll read this one off. Agreement by Martin County to modify the 2018 settlement agreement. Key terms that would need to be modified include, but are not limited to, remove the obligation of Brightline to pay 50% of the cost of the station to be developed on the Treasure Coast. That's a big deal. That's not a little thing. That's a big deal. Also, in the bullet point just above that, and let me make a point here. In Blake's article, he said, you know, contractual language is specific. If Brightline was on the hook for it, that would be very, very clearly articulated. Well, Brightline thought they were on the hook for it up until March 4th, 2024. That's why they asked it to be changed, Blake. So, bullet point just above that. City of Stuart commitment, right? Funds shall be used on the design and development of the parking garage to be developed on the land, right? That's been the deal for 5 years. And or, here's the change, train station. So now, it's not just that we're going to be on the hook for the parking garage or the parking. We also want you to be able to use your money for the train station, right? Because if Brightline's not paying for it, somebody has to. And who's it going to be? The city, all right? So, there was some other interesting requests in there. The right to develop that triangle parcel, that TOD, transit-oriented development. This is what has people nervous beyond just the station, that there may be more to this. And I'll sort of translate that into normal speak. TOD is 4-story mixed-use apartments right there next to your ball fields. And a couple bullet points down where it gets interesting as well. And this is relevant because it's actually part of what's on our agenda tonight with the Ashley Capital item. In the event that the city of Stuart remediates the city-owned land located south of Monterey Road, this is our former dump, the city would agree to lease to Brightline approximately 3 acres of land at the same terms of the lease. Why does Brightline want 3 acres from our old dump? That's nowhere near the station, right? And what are the terms of the land over here for the train station that they want that 3 acres at? $1 a year for 80 years. They want city-owned land, more of it, that's not related to the train station, for $1 a year for 80 years. I can't tell you exactly why. All I can presume is that they would hope to relocate Ernst & Produce and the lumberyard so they could buy that and build more TOD apartments and mixed use at 4 stories over there. Sounds like a great deal for the city of Stuart. You get to pay, right, you're already a Martin County resident, so you're on the hook for $15 million since we live in Martin County, but now you get to pay the other half of the station and deal with the parking garage in the future. You get to give up for $1 a year for 80 years that remediated land so that Brightline can rent it to whoever, and then they can build on that land apartments and mixed use. So that was my major issue with the deal, is effectively Brightline in this public-private partnership, Brightline was off the hook. Brightline pays nothing now in the deal that we were about to enter into. If I move forward one more round to August of 2024, this sort of caps it off. On the 3rd page, I'll just zoom down to number 5. The funds here that we've been talking about, the county would be paying $15 million up to for the cost of the station. The city shall commit up to $30 million, and the funds should be used on the design and development of the train station. With relation to the city and county, we're both would be on the hook up to $15 million for the cost of the station, but now the county is capped. The county's not paying any more than $15 million. So if that station costs more, right, than the $30 million that we're both on the hook for, now in Section 5, the city is committing to paying an additional up to $15 million on top of its 30, okay? So just to recap this, in this deal that we almost entered into, I know everybody wants a station, but please hear me. It is about this deal. The county would be on the hook for $15 million. The city would be on the hook for $45. This little city would be on the hook for $45. And then in the future, potentially be looking at a garage. Does that sound like a good deal for the city? My issue is not with this station. My issue was with this deal. So to bring it all the way back to my original comments last time, that is the context for why I said we need a new deal. I am happy, and we'll probably go into more detail with all of our various comments at the end when we talk about Brightline. I'm happy to entertain a station with a deal that looks more like the deal we were moving into for 5 years until the 11th hour when everything changed. Thank you.
Oh, the other misconception is that it's owned by an Arab company. It is not owned by an Arab company. It is owned by Fortress Investments out of Dallas, Texas, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of a Japanese company, SoftBank, which is one of the most prominent worldwide high-tech investors there is. So I don't know where that rumor, that sort of xenophobic rumor came from.
Xenophobic.
Not that that matters, but it's
Xenophobic.
you know, they've invested just in Stewart.